'Cause we the Bourbon Boys.
And the Bourbon Boys.
We're the Bourbon Boys. Got my vest on, yeah. Ooh. And we just trying to make it. Yeah, we the Bourbon Boys. We're the Bourbon Boys. Stay tuned to this latest video of the Bourbon Boys. We're going to talk a little Bourbon 101 with y'all. Talk to you soon. So welcome back to another Canton Bourbon Boys video. We're going to talk a little Bourbon 101 with everybody. A lot of people have been inquiring about general information on bourbon. There's a lot of new people that have just joined our site, a lot of people that don't know much about what makes bourbon a bourbon. And we're going to do a two-part series for you. One of them kind of discussing basically what makes bourbon a bourbon, and the other one discussing more of bottle labels and what kind of distincts things from like a bottle and bond to a barrel proof, stuff like that.
It's a two-part video?
It's a two-part video. It's a two-part video.
We're doing two-parters now. Let's go.
Yeah, so we'll start it off here. So what makes a bourbon, Rob?
Yeah, I mean, well, starting from the very root of bourbon, right, is the grains and the things that make up the mash bill. So when you're talking bourbon, it's got to be at least 51% corn in the mash. Generally, besides that, the other flavoring grains you got are rye or wheat. I'd say rye is more popular and widely used. Wheat, I know Makers uses wheat. The Weller product uses wheat.
And this little one we sipping on right now.
That's right, baby. Bottle and bond action, Old Fit 16, which is great, by the way. But yeah, so you're talking about the mash bill. You got 51% corn, rye and wheat as your flavoring agent, your flavoring grains. You have malted barley as your kind of enzyme, I'll say. It's there to kind of help the fermentation process out, help break down those grains and extract those sugars out for the yeast to do its job. So, and then every different distillery has a different yeast strain that it uses, and you know that's usually their proprietary thing that they hold on to.
Yeast you buy from the store.
Yeah. But that yeast takes that sugar, munches it up, and byproduct of alcohol is all what we know and love and enjoy in our bourbons. And then it kind of goes over to the distilling process and the barreling process that we're always going to talk about.
Yeah, so one of the cool things about bourbon, of course, like you said, the whole process of making it. When it comes out of the still, it's 160 proof. You know what I mean? So it's hot fire. I mean, it's strong.
Max.
No higher.
No higher than that, though. Yep. So then once it goes in the barrel, it can be no higher than 125 proof.
Yep.
Like I said, this is just multiple blends. Some people, after that whole process of watering down or the process of sitting in the warehouse, which I think Matt will go over that a little bit more.
So a lot of companies like to add water before they barrel because to them it changes the flavor profile a little bit. You got a couple issues with that. When you put water in and water it down, all that water that's sitting in that barrel in the warehouse now has taxes associated with it. So it makes the bourbon a little bit more expensive. But in the long run, those companies like Makers, Michter's, Peerless, they believe that adding water prior and allowing it to sit in there and mingle for that many years adds to a better flavored end product. So,
which is what we care about.
Yeah, that's what we care about. I mean, every company's a little bit different, but like Roy said, 125 proof is the max. Underneath that, I think you can go as low as that. You can't get obviously bottling under 80 proof. So
you'd be buying fucking water then.
Yeah, if you're trying to make some money, put it in as high proof as you can, and blend it off afterwards. Some companies are a little bit different. But on to the next kind of thing that makes bourbon a bourbon, it has to be in a new charred oak vessel. I didn't say barrel, I said vessel. So if you have a bucket that's charred on the inside and it's made of oak and you dump a little bit of white dog in there, it will it's technically considered a bourbon at that point. Barrels are the most widely used, but the reason I state that is because we have a product sitting down here that's called Cleveland Whiskey. And ain't using barrels. They're chopping up barrel chunks, basically aging it, pressure aging it for a day, and they're calling it bourbon. which kind of gets you into the age kind of aspect of what makes bourbon a bourbon.
I mean, you gotta be honest though, it's a genius type thing for their deal. Start a company up, and
they're making money.
I don't have time to put it in a barrel and let it sit for a long time. So
so they're making money, but there is no age that makes a bourbon. Once it touches that oak, that new charred oak barrel, it is bourbon.
Technically,
at that point. So you age it in one day, it's a bourbon, and can't add any coloring or flavoring. So
we talk about that though. Did some research back in the day when there was no true monitoring of how bourbon was made. People was putting some acid in there,
tobacco, shoe polish,
chewed up used spit. I found out some companies. For flavor and taste.
Yeah.
What's awesome about that is we'll talk about in part 2. That kind of goes into the whole bottle and bond philosophy.
Yep.
But the last thing that makes a bourbon is it can be made anywhere in the United States of America. It's a native product to the United States. Meaning it does not only have to be made in Kentucky, even though my personal opinion is Kentucky bourbon is superior based on just...
He's a status.
Yeah. It's just the craftsmanship. I think it's all based on craftsmanship and the generations of master distillers that make it good.
Somebody got in that water down there in Kentucky. That's what it is.
It's the nostalgia too, man. You go down there, you
history.
hear the history. It puts you in the mood, and it makes it all better. Just a better experience.
Yep. 95% roughly of all bourbons are made in Kentucky, and it's starting to expand tremendously. So bourbon's getting out there. But we'll conclude this one. Hopefully you guys liked a little bourbon intro. Write some comments, subscribe to the videos, and make sure you put some comments in there so you could be involved in the Buffalo Trace Barrel giveaway that we are going to go live for. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you next time.